Hey everyone, Chang here and welcome to my channel. This is the Bare Minimum Algebra series, and today we're going to build on our basic understanding of exponents. Now, today we're focusing on multiplying exponents with coefficients. Now, what that means is fairly simple. Outside of a regular basic exponents, all of a sudden you have numbers in front of it. And there's two possible scenarios that you would encounter this, right? And sad to say, there really is no room for creativity. This is what I've noticed though. This is one thing that I do want to emphasize because I've seen it out in the wild. I've seen it with my students. Certain books or certain problems are written or phrased poorly, that it actually promotes confusion. I don't know if the writer or the author had a sick sense of humor like I do, just to mess around with students or the reader. But I want to point this out because it did cause a lot of confusion. Now, these are two examples that I've noticed. First and foremost, when you're given an expression like this, there's really not much you can do. The only thing you can really do is to ask them to expand everything out. I've seen directions where they say simplify or evaluate. There's really not much you can do. The only thing is to expand it. 2 times y times y times y times y. I think I said it 3 times. All right, that's all it can be. However, be very careful. This and this are two different things. You cannot simplify this. When they say simplify and evaluate this, there is something you can do. Understand that for this one, the exponent is on top of the y, so therefore only the y is multiplying itself 3 times. For this one, or variations of this with brackets and so on and so forth, it's saying the entire quantity inside the exponent has to be multiplied however many times, right? That's the entire base. So in this case, you can evaluate, you can work it out, and then you would have to, once again, write it all out, or eventually distribute exponent, all that lovely stuff. But you can just write it all out and then you multiply 5 times x times 5 times x, right? Notice that the exponent applies to everything inside. So the final answer would be 25x squared. Okay, so be very careful. If there's a parentheses, bracket, any indication that the exponent applies to more than just whatever variable or whatever number it's on top of, right? Expand it all out just to be safe, multiply it out, and then you're good to go. So that leads us to basically how would you solve something like this. There are 2 steps. The first step is to solve inside the exponent. Basically solve the base if possible. Exponent if possible. And my marker's dying. Let's use a different marker. Second step is after you solve everything, right, simplify everything inside the exponent, then expand and multiply it all out. Expand / multiply it all out. Okay. Now, if it's exponents, that's it. If it's numbers and variables and all that lovely stuff inside what would be the quantity or the base, then yes, you work through it and then finally expand it and multiply it out. So let's look at some examples of that. All right, let's look at these 3 examples, all numbers. We can ignore the variables right now because I'll make an entire video on just what happens if you multiply nomials with variables. Right? Basically, there's a lot more distributive property and all that other lovely stuff. Now, for this one, here are some examples and potential mistakes. First one is fairly simple. Write it all out. Usually, if you write it all out, you're going to avoid mistakes, but you got to evaluate the exponent first. So it's going to be basically 5 times 3 times 3, or if you want to, and you can immediately see it, 3 times 3 is 9, and then that's going to be 45. Okay. This one is one where people commonly make mistakes, right? They see an exponent, oh, but I see 2 negatives and I immediately cancel out the negative. Doesn't work that way, right? If you were to write it all out, you'll realize why it's going to be a mistake. You have -3 times -2 times -2. Okay, so in this case, You can't just see the negative signs, oh, multiply those guys first because I don't like negative numbers. I know I would be very tempted to do that. You have to expand it all out just to truly understand what it's saying. You got to work on the exponent first because, you know, PEMDAS, right? Negative 2 times negative 2 is going to be 4, then times a negative 3, and that's going to be negative 12. Now, the last one is basically what I want to emphasize. Solve what you can inside before you start working out the exponent. So in this case, this is technically 2 times 5 minus 3, 2 squared, all the 2's, right? You can expand it all out now. It's 2 times 2 times 2, which is basically 8. So there you go. All right, so there you have it, a fairly short video for multiplying exponents with coefficient. Now, for some of you guys who are screaming, this is kindergarten work. Yes, probably, maybe, who knows. Yes, this is fairly simple, fairly easy, but I do want to point out all the different possible common scenarios that you would encounter in the wild and how to deal with them. And this one, even though it's fairly simple, as long as you write it all out and multiply it, you're usually not going to make a mistake. I did want to emphasize these different examples just so you guys can see common pitfalls that I've seen students and people working with exponents fall under. Anyways, once again, fairly simple. Multiply, compute, evaluate, do whatever you can inside the exponent first. As long as it simplifies down to the nitty-gritty, then expand it all out and then solve. Plain and simple. As we built on exponents, it will get a slight bit more challenging, but once again, it's not emphasizing all the crazy mathematical properties that we're going to be focusing on in this series. It's just basic tools, step-by-step instructions, or different cases and scenario on how to conquer it. So we will move on to exponents and several other things we can do with exponents in other videos. Thank you for watching this one though. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.